The Creative Control of Ishkana podcast is brought to you by you. Virtually all financial support for this show comes from listeners just like you. So please keep Creative Control going by making a flexible monthly donation at patreon.com/Creative Control. You'll be glad you did this. Not as glad as me, but still pretty glad. Thank you.
Is an absolute force of nature. Please go absolutely mental and welcome to stage Mr. Ronny Chieng!
Ronny Chieng is an award-winning Chinese stand-up comedian and actor born in Malaysia who currently lives in New York City, where he's a correspondent on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. Raised in Manchester, New Hampshire, but also Singapore, Chieng graduated from the University of Melbourne in Australia in 2009 with a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Commerce, but then began his serious pursuit of stand-up. Between July 23rd and 25th, Chieng returns to the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, and he and I caught up for a very brief chat about Canada, comedy, weirdo lawyers and comedians, rhetoric and the media, his personal rage issues, and more. With the support of listeners like you who subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, plus in-kind support from CFRU 93.3 FM, Pizza Trokadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, this is the 489th and shortest ever episode of Creative Control, featuring the hilarious Ronny Chieng with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
It's up to you guys now. I'm okay. I'm okay with anything. I'm out. I contributed to the decision making. I'm okay with anything. I'm okay with anything. Why do you have to aim so low in life? I'm okay with anything. I'll be okay with anything. Okay, well, what will you be good with? What will you be good with? Why don't you tell me what you'll be good with? Why do you have to be okay? I'm okay with anything. Anything. Anything? You're okay with anything. Diarrhea. Are you okay with diarrhea? No? No diarrhea. Okay, genocide. Are you okay with genocide? No? So that's two things you're not okay with right there. Let's put some parameters on this decision making right now.
Hi, Ronny. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. Where in the world are you? It's a hustly, bustly soundtrack behind you.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm in New York right now. Yeah, sorry.
No.
Hope it's not too noisy.
No, it's okay. It's okay. How long have you been in New York now?
3.5 years.
Right.
Almost four, yeah.
This is since you started The Daily Show, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you enjoy New York? Do you enjoy America?
Yeah, love it. New York is, especially for what I do, it's got great creative energy. It's kind of like, if you do stand-up comedy, this is kind of the mecca, I think, to do it. All my comedy heroes kind of came from here. Yeah, there's a nice vibe here.
Nice.
For that stuff. Yep.
Now, you've been to Canada, I believe, a few times for JFL. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
JFL Montreal, and they brought me out to Toronto and Vancouver. But at Montreal, I've been to like at least 3 or 4 times, I think.
Okay. So yeah. I must ask your perspective. You're a man of the world. You've lived in other countries. What do you make of Canada?
What do I make of it? It's awesome. Canada reminds me a lot of Australia. It's socialist. Like, people kind of understand how to take care of other people. It's got that chill European vibe. You know, Montreal, the old town of Montreal. Are you from Montreal?
No, I'm calling you from Guelph, Ontario, which is just west of Toronto.
Okay, yeah. Even Toronto, I mean, it's got that kind of chill European vibe. Yeah, for me, Canada, when I'm there, it just reminds me of Australia.
That's interesting. So, so did you grow up in Australia?
I spent 10 years there. I went to Australia for college.
Right.
And I started doing stand-up comedy then.
Now, what prompted you to start stand-up comedy? My understanding of your college background is it was pretty serious. Let's start with that. What did you study in college?
I did a law degree and a commerce degree at the same time. And law school in Australia is undergraduate.
Oh.
So I went there as an undergrad, yeah.
Okay. So you studied some serious stuff. How did you find stand-up?
As in how did I discover it?
I mean for yourself. I mean, how did you make the leap from these very serious? I mean, I've been answering that question for like 10 years now. So I was doing
there was a comedy competition at law school, and I just signed up to do it. Yeah.
Now,
And every year I would sign up and kind of chicken out, and then my final year of law school, I signed up and I showed up. So yeah, that's kind of how I started getting to stand up.
do you know why you chickened out? I just want to follow that impulse. What was it about it that made you think, oh no, I can't do this?
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. The first time you do it, every time you do it, but especially the first time, it's nerve-wracking. I didn't think I could do it. So I just kind of backed out the night before, and then my final year of law school, I was kind of like, oh, it's now or never. So I just signed up and did it.
And do you have a sense memory of that experience? Obviously, you've kept going, but what do you remember about that first experience?
No, I not only do I have a memory, I have a video of it. I just remember kind of being nervous all day and doing the show at night. And I remember halfway through a set, I actually forgot the set. But then, like, it for what felt like 5 minutes, but really it was like 3 seconds. And then I remembered it again, and then I finished the set. And then I actually won that competition. And that's what kind of got me started into doing stand-up comedy.
Now, from what I know of lawyers and the lawyers I know, there's an aspect of being a lawyer where you have to outwit your opponent, you have to outsmart your opponent, you have to be really clever, and I kind of see a parallel between that and stand-up. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you see a parallel between the two?
Yeah, I mean, that's I've been answering this question for 10 years. That's the first time I've heard someone put it like that. The kind of parallel between law and comedy. The competitive aspect, no one's ever kind of brought that up before, which is interesting. Is an interesting thought. I think with law, we like to think that it's about outwitting the opponent, but the real day-to-day practice of it, even in litigation where there is an opponent to kind of battle, like most of the time there is, it's not really about outsmarting the other guy. It's just about who can do the most mundane thing the quickest. So the kind of matching wits is in like A Few Good Men. That's not 99% of the time. It's not that at all. So I don't know how much of it is matching wits that carries into comedy, but I think there's definitely a love of words and explaining an argument. Because I think the really good comedy, I think, is you're kind of making an argument. And a lot of the time the argument is some warped idea or warped premise that's contrary to kind of common society's belief. But you kind of say it, and then you make an argument for for why it is, and you try to back it up with your own internal logic, right? I mean, that's one style of comedy. Some people are one-liners, some people are storytellers, but the kind of comedy I like is basically you're kind of making an argument for an absurd premise, and you have to kind of back it up. So yeah, that would be the parallel, right? Making an argument.
Yeah, I think making the argument and swaying an audience, a judge, a jury, there seems to be something going on there in the performative aspect of both. Yeah,
absolutely.
So one of the weird offshoots of your America's current political climate is we are exposed now to the weirdest fucking lawyers I've ever seen. Like just and like would you agree? Like some of the rogues gallery is often filled with lawyers, and I find that interesting. They're all a bit odd, don't you think?
Wait, are you talking about like the current administration?
I think so. Yeah, mostly. Yeah, the people that are representing the current administration. I mean,
sure.
They're all a little odd. Do you think lawyers are generally a little weird?
Yeah, I think lawyers are generally pretty weird. I think you've got a mixture of, usually they're like type A personality, kind of aggressive, and like, or even if they're not aggressive, they definitely have a high opinion about themselves. And so you're mixing all this ego and quite frankly, like you have to have some kind of intelligence to get through law school, I think. So I'm not saying they are the smartest people ever, but I'm just saying you have to have some basic level. So you're mixing it's this melting pot of type A personality plus ego plus some basic level of intelligence that creates a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not even saying that there aren't weirdos in other professions. I mean, comedy has the most weirdos, probably. But I think lawyers. You were asking me about this current administration. Yeah, there's a bunch of. I think there's a bunch of weirdos, and kind of representing America right now who, quite frankly, aren't the best of the best. And I think in any industry, you kind of want to work with the best of the best, or you want the best of the best representing you. That's not always possible for various reasons, right? Economic or whatever whatever socioeconomic reasons there are. But I think in government, it's rare to see this many people who just seem, quite frankly, incompetent. Like you wouldn't. I don't think anyone in their right mind with money would hire any of these people to do any. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think you would. I wouldn't hire any of these people to work for me. They all seem like a bunch of, like as you said, they look like they look like the rogues gallery of villains from like a superhero comic.
Yeah, and I wonder, from your perspective with your law background, what do you make of the law bending, the hypocrisy in their statements? Like, it's very baffling that they're getting away with this.
It is, and it isn't. And what you just asked is really the $1 million question in America right now. Like, I think what we're seeing right now is really testing what America is. I mean, is it a country where the rhetoric doesn't matter, or is it a country where that kind of rhetoric does matter? To put it quite simply,
yeah.
Because we see it's almost like we see all these people saying pretty ridiculous things, but it on the ground level, to some extent, the country ticks on, the banks open, the people wake up, they go to work. So it's weird. It's a very weird time. There's a real disconnect between what's being played out in the media and what is happening on the ground level,
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting time to trying to figure out what that means. Like, does it mean that the media isn't real, or does it mean that we should care about rhetoric because it does affect people on the ground in a way that isn't tangible? Is there something intangible building on a very practical day-to-day level?
Yeah.
Because we often, the cynical people often argue that politics doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who you vote for. I mean, does the past 4 years kind of make us change our minds on that? Does it mean it does matter? Like, symbols matter. Who represents you does matter. And, it's a question that needs to be answered, I think.
Now, I appreciate that response. In your stand-up, in the pieces you work with, the pieces you do for The Daily Show and the writers you work with, you tap into a certain exasperation and anger that I find compelling and necessary. Do you have a sense of where that rage is sort of coming from? If you would describe it as such, I don't want to mischaracterize you, but I feel like that's a lot of where you're drawing from.
Damn, I don't know, man. I wish I had a therapist to talk to about that. It's definitely coming from somewhere real. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the things which I found are the funniest are often the things that make me the angriest, and so it's a way of kind of communicating that so that other people can understand and get on board, so that they don't feel like I'm being angry at them, but that they can kind of join in my frustrations. That's kind of like the key. Yeah. For me, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I believe that authenticity resonates, and with comedy, having an authentic point of view is kind of what makes good comedy great. So all that stuff is coming from a real place. I don't know if I can even. I don't even know how to fake anger on stage.
No, you seem very angry. I'm not your therapist. I'm just saying.
Thanks.
I think it's good for your comedy, but I just wonder where it came from. So in terms of your JFL appearances, do you have a plan in place? Do you know what you're going to be doing and talking about on some level? Is there something you can kind of preview for us without spoiling anything?
No, it'd be the same. It'd be the same. It's the same bullshit I'll bring every year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to. Sorry, I don't really know how to summarize it. Yeah.
That's fine. We'll all find out when we see you. Okay. And where can people go to learn more about you, Ronny?
I guess you could go on my website if anyone still uses the websites anymore. It's ronnychieng.com. I'm also on Instagram, and which is probably the only social media platform which I respect right now. So, even though I know it's technically a subsidiary of Facebook and blah blah blah, but I don't know. I like I find it a way more positive environment. So
yeah,
on Instagram, yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I know we have to go. We have to keep this short. I appreciate this time, and I wish we had more time. Maybe we'll talk some other time, and I'll stop saying the word time. Ronny, thank you so much for being on the show, and best of luck with everything going forward.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry for the background noise, but how else would you know I'm in New York?
Exactly.
Right.
Special thanks again to Ronny Chieng for being on this, the 489th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One podcast network and is available on all iOS and Android platforms and things like Spotify, Audio Boom, YouTube, everything really. If you can't find an episode that you've heard about and are looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my regularly scheduled newsletter, please visit my website, vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at vishcreative, or follow me directly at vishkhanna. You can also listen to a radio show version of Creative Control on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time around the world at CFRU.ca or on an actual radio at 93.3 FM if you're in or near Guelph. Also, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation and keep this podcast going. We have a very modest Patreon. It would be nice if it was less modest. It was like, flashy. It's not flashy. So go to patreon.com/Creative Control and help make the Patreon more flashy. Thanks again to Pizza Trokadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Grandad's Donuts for their in-kind support for this show. Thank you to Jim Guthrie for letting me use some music of his on this show. Go to jimguthrie.org to learn more about Jim and his amazing music. And finally, last but not least, thank you very much for listening to this podcast and subscribing to it and telling your friends to check it out. It means a lot on the Reddit and the Twitter and the Facebook or whatever you use to spread the word. Please do. And that's all I have to say for now. I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye for now.